You ever feel like your childhood didn't really have a big dramatic ending? It just kind of faded out. That quiet experience of becoming the adult in the room way before you ever really got the chance to just be a kid? Well, that's exactly what we're diving into. The psychology behind what it really means to grow up just a little too fast. And wow, this quote just nails it, doesn't it? It's not about one big thing happening. It's this slow, quiet process, a gradual dawning that somehow the job of the responsible one has silently fallen onto your shoulders. What's really interesting here is that this isn't just some vague feeling of being a mature kid. Psychology actually has a name for this whole experience. It's a recognized pattern, and it has some incredibly deep roots and, yeah, some pretty lasting effects. And this is that exact moment. It's almost never a decision that comes from wanting to be in charge. It's born out of pure necessity. A kid looks around, sees a gap where there should be stability, and just steps up. They learn how to be the calm in the storm, simply because nobody else is doing it. So, the official term for this is parentification, and it's basically when the lines between parent and child get all sorts of blurry. The child ends up having to handle adult-level emotions or practical jobs way before their brain is actually ready for that kind of load. And going through this creates this powerful survival program in the brain. You can kind of think of it as a three-step process. First, your own needs, for comfort, for play, they get pushed way down. Then you get really good at staying calm and fixing things. And finally, you learn this tough lesson. Your feelings, they're a luxury. They have to come last, always. But here's something that is so important to understand. This early pressure, it forges a really unique kind of strength. These aren't character flaws we're talking about. They are sophisticated, complex adaptations built for survival. Let's break down 3 of the core traits that often come out of this. Okay, so we're going to look at 3 big ones. First up is survival independence, which is this kind of intense self-reliance. Then there's split maturity, that strange feeling of being an old soul and a young kid all at once. And finally, guarded empathy, a really unique way of feeling for others while keeping yourself safe. All right, let's start with survival independence. So, on the outside, you look like the person who's got it all together, capable, calm, totally self-reliant. But on the inside, man, it's a completely different story. You've learned the hard way that asking for help is risky, and that when you do get support, it might not last. Trusting someone to really be there for you it feels almost dangerous. Because experience has taught you over and over again, at the end of the day, you've only got yourself. Next up is what we call split maturity. This is that feeling of being wise beyond your years in some ways, but really young in others. You might give incredible advice or handle a crisis like a pro. That's the wise and responsible part. But that other slice, that emotionally unmet part, feels totally lost when it comes to its own needs. That's the part of you that never really got to learn how to just receive care. And this leads us right into guarded empathy. It's almost like you developed a superpower, right? You can walk into a room and instantly feel what's going on. You're a master at figuring out what people need and smoothing things over. But you also learn that feeling everything so deeply can be really costly. So you keep your own emotions under lock and key, protected from all the chaos. Okay, so you make it through childhood. You've got these incredible adaptations that helped you survive. But now you're an adult, and the very things that kept you safe back then can make life feel, just incredibly heavy now. And that brings us to a huge question, one that hits home for so many people who grew up this way. Why is it that the one thing you desperately need, to just rest, can feel so completely and utterly unsafe? Well, the answer is literally hardwired into your nervous system. Think about it. If calm in your childhood was just the quiet before a storm, your body learned to never let its guard down. Your sense of worth got all tangled up in being useful, so resting feels lazy or pointless. And getting care from someone else, that often brings up this wave of guilt, this deep down belief that your needs are just a burden on other people. It's not a choice, it's a reflex. So, where do you go from here? How do you move forward? The crucial thing to remember is that healing isn't about trying to erase your past. It's about reframing it. It's about finally allowing yourself some of the softness you never got. And I really want you to hear this. Just let it sink in for a second. All of these struggles, all of these internal battles, they are not signs that you are broken. They are signs that you survived.
Now, what you have are adaptations. Your nervous system, your mind, your whole being did exactly what it had to do to handle an overwhelming situation. You aren't flawed, you were incredibly resilient. The system worked. Now, it just needs new instructions for a new, safer reality.
Here's another way to think about it. You learned responsibility before you ever learned what it felt like to be safe. You learned strength before you ever learned about softness. But healing isn't about becoming weak. Not at all. It's about finally learning that you can be both strong and soft. You can be responsible and be cared for. You don't have to choose anymore.
So that brings us to the last question, and this one's just for you. You learned how to carry all of that weight because you absolutely had to. But you're an adult now. You're in a different place. Are you still carrying that same weight long after you should have been able to finally set it down?